Well, thanks for watching Numbskull News, and today I want to get into something a little bit different. I'm talking about Oregon and Washington versus University of North Carolina and Virginia. Now, why am I doing that? Well, I've made some videos about the ACC before, and great conversations in the comments, by guys like Tar Heel, who, of course, they love the ACC, they love their school. Great. But for some reason, guys like Tar Heel seem to think a little bit more of UNC and Virginia than I do. I think those are great universities. They're some of the best educational spots in the country. There's no doubt about that. Basketball, UNC, legendary. But when you're talking in terms of college realignment, we're talking football. All right, because football is what generates the revenue. That's what makes the money. I did a video kind of going over, what would the Big Ten and the SEC be willing to take from the ACC, and I busted it down to I can't see them taking any more than 2 schools apiece, if that. It's been said in the comments before, UNC has turned down offers or invites to the Big Ten and the SEC, but that's a long time ago, and it's not when those conferences were making $100 million per school. So you never turn down $100 million a year to go to one of those conferences. So things have changed. So would you get an invite now? Is UNC or Virginia worth $100 million a year? Can they generate that for a conference? And more importantly, can they generate that for a TV network that's going to pay the conference $100 million a team? That's the big question. So I kind of broke it down as best as I could to understand it, what makes logical sense to me. Because I don't care what the actual school makes for itself. There's all kinds of off-the-field lines of revenue that an individual school can make, and UNC does a great job of that, and I'm sure Virginia does a good job at that. However, that doesn't matter when it comes to a TV network, because they're not collecting on that money. All right, they make their money by selling advertising. How do they sell advertising? They have to go to advertisers and say, look, this is our ratings. This is what it's worth if you want to advertise on our network. And the higher the ratings, the more they can charge and the more they can profit. And the higher the ratings, the more they profit, but more they can pay a conference because those ratings are awesome. This is why the Big Ten makes so much damn money. And this is why the SEC makes so much damn money. Because both of those conferences generate incredible ratings. So there's 3 criteria to me that make logical sense on, the kind of value an individual school would have to a conference if you're thinking at it through a TV network's frame of mind or Amazon app, sports app, or whatever. And those 3 things are your media market, those are your average TV ratings for the year, and winning. And look, you might winning. No. Winning equals ratings. All right, just look at TCU. 2021 didn't have a good year. And they were still like on average, they were a top 30 team as far as ratings go. But it's like low 20s, right? 27, 28, somewhere in there. But this year, they were number 13 right by Oregon, which always gets good ratings. So that's an incredible jump from one year to another. And that's because TCU had this magical season, undefeated regular season, playoff appearance, playoff win, all that stuff. Winning equals ratings. All right, take a look the difference between Alabama and Texas A&M. Now, Alabama is in Tuscaloosa, which is like the 86th overall media market, and Texas A&M is in Houston, which I think is like the 7th overall media market. So huge difference in media market, and that should be an advantage to A&M. However, Alabama gets better ratings every year because of all the damn winning they've done the past 15 years. So these are indisputable facts that I'm throwing out there. So winning equals ratings, plus you have to also look at the media market. And why is that important? Because a lot of times that gives you a floor, right? Where you're not going to go from, oh, wow, you're like number 12 in the ratings because you're winning, and now you're going to drop to like 101 when you're not. All right, that's a very low, sucky floor if you're in some shitty market. But if you're in a really good market, a powerful market, then your floor is lower. All right. And this is what TV networks look at. So I think if you look at all three, we could kind of overall get the value through the TV network's eyes of what those four schools are and who would be more valuable for the Big Ten and the SEC to pick up. So let's start with the media market. That would be your floor. Well, the Seattle-Tacoma media market, that's the number 12 media market in the country, and Washington should take that. Now, next up, the Oregon Ducks. Now, they're in Eugene, which is a tiny market. However, they do get the Portland market as well, which is the 21st overall media market, both of which is better than UNC's media market, which is number 23, which is the Raleigh-Durham, Fayetteville market. Now, I didn't even look up Virginia's. It's smaller than that. Well, let's look at the ratings, the overall average ratings for 2022. Oregon, like I said before, was number 12 average ratings for the whole season. Washington was 34. And then all the way down at 46 is UNC. And keep in mind, NC State was number 43. So they didn't even have the better ratings in the state. And Virginia, forget it. They're all the way down at 79, man. No one's watching Virginia. I looked up the last 10 years, the last decade of winning, and who has won the most in all of college football. Got a list, and who's on the list. Oregon is number 11. Overall wins for the last 10 years. Done a lot of winning the last 10 years. Washington, number 22 in wins, total wins for that 10-year stretch. UNC, 56. Mediocre as hell. And Virginia, 97. Crap. 10 years, man. 50 wins. That's average of 5 wins a year. And you're going to tell me those two schools are more valuable to a TV network than Oregon and Washington? That makes no sense at all. The Tar Heels' last conference title in football was 1980. 1980, 40 years ago. Virginia, a little better, 1995. Neither one of them have won a conference title this century. This century, both Oregon and Washington has won at least one conference title the last 10 years. So these are all real, like scientific, real fucking numbers that you can use to see, okay, this is the kind of stuff that a TV network is going to look at. All right. And I just I did like maybe 30 minutes of research on that. It didn't take long. And these, the networks, they're going to go way deeper than that, even deeper into the numbers. They want to know how many people are in the stands. They want to know everything. All right. So don't give me, oh, hey, we generate this much money for our school. Doesn't matter. That doesn't help the ACC. What do you generate for the ACC? Winning, ratings, and market. All right. UNC is in a decent market. All right. Number 23 overall is not bad. All right. That's a decently high floor for UNC. But your ratings suck and your winning sucks. And it sucked for a long time. Even though UNC had a good year this year, still didn't help them in the ratings. A TV network, they can't sell your academic program, regardless of how epic it is, regardless of how much value a diploma from the University of North Carolina is worth, and it's worth a lot from Virginia. I mean, Thomas Jefferson founded University of Virginia. All right. That is a prestigious diploma to have, but a TV network can't sell that shit, and they don't care about it. They care about that money. What kind of money can they make off of your ratings? And when your ratings are that much lower than Oregon and Washington, you have less value. And both of Oregon and Washington are in better markets. They have higher floors than you when it comes to ratings. And they do more winning. So that will help keep their ratings higher than you that don't do the winning. UNC and Virginia don't win. Basketball, it's a different story altogether. But football, You just don't. Once in a while, y'all have one of those universities will have a good season. All right, and they're seen as respectable. I don't know about Virginia because they've been bad for a long time, but UNC is seen as a respectable football school. But you know what? Just about every team in the Big 12 is seen as a respectable football school. I mean, does it really matter? Is that going to help get you into the Big 10 or the SEC? Look, the only thing that UNC and Virginia really have over Oregon and Washington is geography. Because where you're at, that's kind of a place the SEC likes to be. All right, they're not interested in going and getting Oregon and Washington. They don't want to be on the West Coast. They don't want to go coast to coast. They want to be in their region. The Big Ten wants to be coast to coast. So they can look at all four of those schools and be cool with either one of them coming in. Could be. But keep in mind, the two teams with better media markets, better ratings, and more winning, they don't want those schools either. They don't want Oregon or Washington. Maybe one day, but if you really think about how all this realignment's going, Oregon and Washington got denied, and it wasn't by the Commissioner Warren, who now went to the Bears, which says, how valuable is the Big Ten when you'd rather be the president of the Bears. But I digress. He wanted more teams from out west. The ADs and the presidents of these other colleges, those are his bosses. Those are the bosses of whatever commissioner is going to be there. They didn't want Oregon and Washington because they felt that would dilute their money. They don't want to go south of 100. Once they got to 100 million, they don't want to go south of that. I can't blame them. SEC schools are going to be the same way. OU can generate $100 million a year of interest for the SEC and for whatever network being, ESPN is their main network, their main partner. So they could generate that for them. Texas can generate those kind of ratings for ESPN to be worth $100 million a year. UNC and Virginia, they are not Texas and they are not OU. They are not USC. You see what I'm getting at? Those schools generate huge ratings, which equals huge money and huge advertiser buys for whatever network it is, whether that's Fox, NBC, Amazon, ESPN, CBS, whatever it is, generates huge money, huge advertising revenue. UNC football cannot generate what those schools can. You can't generate what Ohio State can, or Michigan, or Alabama. I can keep going down the list. Notre Dame, Florida State, Clemson. You don't have that ability to generate that kind of funds, that kind of money. It's not there. And if it's not there, the Big Ten will not want you. I could be wrong. I will admit. I'm not Nostradamus over here. I don't know what all is going to happen. But giving all the information, everything that we've seen, everything laid out, you cannot make a logical case for the Big Ten wanting UNC or Virginia in 2023 and moving forward. Because old information, old invites from the Big Ten and the SEC don't make shit of a difference now. Because the economics are totally different now. They're not making $25-30 million a school. They're making $100 million a school. And if you can't generate that, you're not worth it. They're not going to want you. Maybe a commissioner will want you, but I guarantee you, you got to convince Ohio State, you got to convince Michigan and Nebraska and Penn State that you can generate $100 million annually for a TV network for Fox. And according to everything that I just laid out in this video, you can't. You don't do enough winning. you're not in a big enough market, and you don't get the ratings. As I've already said, Oregon and Washington do all of that at a higher level than those two schools. But Oregon and Washington cannot get into the Big Ten because they themselves still are not worth $100 million a year. As a matter of fact, if the Big Ten takes anybody from the Pac-12, it's going to be Stanford, because Stanford has the highest floor out of any of them, being in the Bay Area, which I believe is the fourth or fifth largest media market in the country. They will take that. And this is why Florida State and Clemson and Miami might be more, seen by the Big Ten or SEC as more teams they want to gravitate to because of market size, because of winning, because of ratings, which are higher than yours. Ultimately is why I think it's going to take till 2036 for anybody to do any moving anyway, because you're not going to be able to guarantee 8 teams a spot in the SEC and the Big Ten. There's no way in fucking hell. There's not enough teams in the ACC worth that kind of money to where it's not going to dilute that conference of their money. And those ADs and those presidents, the people who run those conferences, are not going to lose money because of you. They're not going to lose money because of Virginia, UNC, or you name the team. All right, Florida State, they're not going to lose money. And one thing that was laughable, Tar Heel, as you said, well, UNC they'd break even. No, you don't. You're not going to generate $100 million for any conference. You don't do that now. You might generate a lot of money for you, for your school. UNC might generate a lot of their own money, but they're not generating ratings. They're not generating possible revenue and future revenue for a TV network. That's why they're not going anywhere, unless it's the Big 12. 'Cause that's the funny thing. Y'all would be a great fit. So would Virginia inside the Big 12. Now, I understand. The way it looks right now, you don't want any part of the Big 12. But by 2031, you might feel a little different. Because by then, now, I'm putting on my speculation hat here, but I think by then the Big 12 is going to be worth a lot more than they're worth currently now. They're going to do a lot more winning. Mainly, they're going to be making more money because the value of college football is just going to keep going up. And I do believe they're going to get teams out of the Pac-12. I don't know how many. I don't know who. But they are going to get teams out of there, which will increase the overall value of the conference. So by 2031, I mean, I don't want to throw out a certain number, but could they be making 10, 12, 30 million more annually than they make right now? It's conceivable, especially once Amazon really starts making a foothold inside of college football and wishes to expand. They're going to first want to go to the Big Ten. The SEC might be a little difficult because ESPN is going to keep them on lock. But there's also the Big 12. By the time 2031 comes around, if the Big 12 is making a lot more money than they're making now, and it's looking like, oh, well, UNC is not going to get into the Big 10 or the SEC, neither is Virginia. Oh, we'll just stay in the ACC. Okay, stay there. Make your $20 million a year or whatever it's going to be, being a glorified Group of 5 school conference, or you can come to the Big 12 and make a lot more money. We'll see at that point. The ACC is not going anywhere. No one's getting out of the ACC until 2036. Like I said, you're not going to find 8 schools that are going to have a comfortable landing spot inside the 2 big conferences. Not happening. And UNC and Virginia, y'all need to stop acting like it's a lock that you're going to get into one of those 2 major conferences, because I got a rather funny feeling that those 2 conferences would be more than happy to stay at 16 teams forever, rather than being diluted by schools that can't make $100 million a year, aren't worth $100 million a year. And there's no information out there that suggests that y'all are worth $100 million a year. None. Anyway, that's all I got on this crap. I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.